I have a few pieces of gear in my studio right now that I am in the midst of reviewing. I have a few first impressions videos of the gear already, and I'll link to those down below. And in Member Monday this week, I actually shared some of my plans for those full reviews, so I will link to Member Monday below as well, and also how you can become a member. But in this video, I want to share a bit about my process for reviewing. Questions like how I review the gear, why I review certain pieces of gear and not others, and where do I get the gear. I receive questions like that from viewers often, so I'm going to answer it all in this video. I can only speak for myself, so keep that in mind. This is my own personal whys and hows. I'm going to start with why I review gear in general. Well, I like art and I like technology, and photography is an intersection of the two. So I like learning about and using different camera technologies, but I do the review videos because you all seem to like it. Like I said, I like to try new things, new cameras, new gadgets, but gear review videos aren't my favorite type of videos to make. They take a lot of time and effort to create, and I would personally rather be out using the gear and sharing results in some sort of storytelling fashion. But you like the review videos, and my job is a balance between sharing my own art and what I want to create and sharing things that you all want to see. If I didn't, I wouldn't be able to do this as a full-time job, and that would be a real bummer, so it's a good trade-off. So I have made my gear reviews in my own style, which I'll talk about later. Let's do this in chronological order, starting with how I choose gear to review and where I get the gear. I review gear that either I want or I want to try out, or I think that viewers will be interested in. I'm pretty much game to try anything. The gear is either purchased by me or has been sent to me by various companies. Sometimes viewers get angry that I reviewed something that was borrowed or gifted, or that I didn't review something in particular, but sometimes my choices in review material are just about access. I can only spend the money that I make, so I have to be smart about my purchases, and I don't have relationships with all of the camera, gadget, and software companies out there. I do have some relationships though, and the gear sent to me by those companies is either lent to me, gifted to me, or sometimes gifted to me and I'm also paid, and that's when you see the sponsorship verbiage. I get offered a lot of gadgets, but if I don't think I'm going to use it or I don't think that you'll be interested in it, I tell the company not to send it. I will talk more about working with companies in a minute. I know it's a hot topic, so I will spend some time with it. But before that, the things that I purchase myself, all of the camera bodies and all but one of my lenses were purchased by Raymond and I, or you may have seen things that I've borrowed. Plus, I've purchased a whole slew of gadgets, my drones, most of my lighting. I'm able to justify purchasing quite a bit of gear because it's my job. My job as Snapchick is to show you gear and to take photos and video to share and discuss. Also, I'm selective about the photography jobs that I take outside of YouTube, but I do like to be prepared for those as well. My point here is that my gear choices are different than they would be if I was only a professional photographer, or if I was only, photography was my passion. Plus, there's two of us in this household, which means that I purchase more gear than if it was just me wanting to take photos. It's kind of a blessing and a curse that there's two of us. Okay, working with companies. The deal with working with companies for me is that I am very careful about who I work with and what I promise them in exchange for a gift, a piece of borrowed gear, or even those cases when I have a sponsorship. The reason is that I will not commit to anything other than the truth. Luckily, the big camera companies that I've worked with have not asked for anything in advance of me using their gear, and they have not tried to sway me in any way. And I realize that that sounds unlikely, but it's true. I think that they understand that YouTube is my job, and of course I'm going to want to make videos about the stuff they're allowing me to use. Even when I've said negative things in my videos, I haven't had a company complain to me about it. Other than that, when talking about gadgets, Some companies will ask for a video or a review or a certain number of social media posts, and I agree to what I think is reasonable. I've also been lucky to receive mostly gear that I like, so I've rarely been in a situation to want to make a fully negative review. If I find something negative about a product, I discuss it in the review, but I find that if a piece of gear doesn't work or I only have negative things to say about it, I just make a judgment call on whether or not I think a negative review would be helpful to you all. There have been times where I have, and times when I've simply sent the gear back. Last is how I review gear. Basically, I review it in the real world. I rarely sit with a test target. I think test targets are fine, and certainly they are sometimes useful information. I appreciate that there are people out there doing it, but if I had to sit in my studio and shoot precise test targets all day, I would want to stab myself in the eye. I like to think that I provide an equally useful perspective, trying out the gear in the real world. Whatever it is, I want to use it for the purpose it is intended, because to me that's where kind of the truth comes out. Does a piece of gear work? Is it fun or easy to use? Do I like it? What do the results look like? I look at the holistic view of a product when I review it, not just the technical specifications. Though, if there's a test target out from a trusted source for the gear that I'm using, I might check it out. I might look at the weaknesses and see if they showed up in my work and then share that information in my review. Or I suppose my version of a test target is like the places that I go regularly with new gear. For example, the Grand Canyon. I'm able to do kind of informal comparisons in the real world against other gear that I've used because I'm so familiar with the place. How does autofocus perform across the canyon? What does the difficult lighting situation do in the camera? I always calibrate my expectations to what the gear is meant to be used for and who will most likely use it, but I guess those are my own test targets. So that's it. Reviewing gear for me takes time. I prefer to take weeks and use the gear a lot in different situations before I make any conclusions, but you can always know that if you see a review from me, you are getting the full story from my perspective. I'm not going to not tell you about negative or positive things that I experienced with it. In fact, I think I went on a little rant about my dislike of lying and clickbait in Member Monday this week. It's true. I don't like it. I don't even like the term clickbait because it's so often misused. Anyway, that's enough talk about reviews. I need to actually go do the reviews. I will be rolling out a few of those in the next several weeks, so make sure that you are subscribed and following me on all the socials so that you see them all. And thanks for watching.